Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Janet Reichert, Communication Specialist for the Brandon Police Service. We have one release to speak on today. On behalf of the Brandon Police Service, we extend our deepest sympathies to the victims and the families affected by the disturbing crimes recently uncovered. We are committed to pursuing justice for the innocent lives impacted, and we stand for those who have been harmed during this challenging and painful time. Please note information contained in our news releases may relate to issues of violence or trauma, which could be distressing for some individuals. Be mindful of your well-being and consider whether or not engaging with this content is appropriate for you. Now I'll hand things over to the Chief of Police, Tyler Bates, for the media release, follow-up, and questioning.
Good day. On February 3rd, 2025, the Brandon Police Service Major Crime Section entered into an investigation after being notified by the National Child Exploitation Center that an individual was possibly creating child sexual abuse material of children in their care in the city of Brandon. Police were able to identify the identity of the suspect and where he was residing. The investigation revealed that the suspect and his common law partner are foster parents of young children and have a home daycare operated within the residence. After learning this information, the Major Crime Section, including the Internet Child Exploitation Investigators, Child Abuse Investigators, and patrol members, attended the residence with Child and Family Services. The suspect was located within the residence and taken into police custody. The suspect's common law partner and 6 children were also located within. A search warrant was soon executed and computer systems were seized. All children were safeguarded. The 37-year-old male suspect was arrested and held at Brandon Police Service. He appeared before the courts on February 4th, facing charges of making child pornography, possession of child pornography, accessing child pornography, distributing child pornography, and sexual assault. He was subsequently remanded into custody. As a result of the continued investigation and examination of the evidence, the male suspect has been arrested and charged with additional offenses, including sexual assault and sexual interference. Through this investigation, the male was also identified as the suspect from an incident that occurred on June 9th, 2024, where images of child pornography were uploaded, stored, and distributed. It's believed the distribution was at an international level. Further investigation has resulted in additional charges of sexual assault, sexual interference, and assault. He's been arrested on these charges on February 5th at Brandon Correctional Center, where he is in custody and appeared before the courts on February 6th. This is an ongoing, evolving, active investigation, and to protect the identity of the victims and their families, police will not be releasing the name of the charged individual at this time. The Brandon Police Service continues to work diligently with our partners and agencies of Child and Family Services, as well as investigators from the Toba Center for Children and Youth, in order to provide the support required both for the victims and their families. I'm open for questions with respect to this ongoing investigation and am ready to receive any inquiries from attending media. Thank you. Go ahead. I can't specify at this juncture that particular detail, sorry. It's an evolving, active investigation. All I can comment on is that that both adults were resident of the home and both involved in the care of 6 children within the home. So as it relates to criminal activities involving the children, the evidence that has garnered thus far has resulted in charges against this 37-year-old male, and that's the extent of the criminal charges laid at this juncture. So an active and ongoing investigation, and certainly we're exploring every potential avenue that has contributed to the victimization of children within the home, and potentially beyond those 6 children that were in the home as well. So when you look at the plethora of electronic devices and computer systems that were seized, there's an extensive volume of review and analysis that takes place relative to those devices, and it is plausible and within the realm of possibility that there could potentially be other victims. So remains an active and ongoing investigation, and we're going to see this through till its conclusion as far as the evidence is concerned. Go ahead.
For somebody to become a foster parent, they have to be given children through some sort of family children's services agency. Is there any steps to ensure that they were fulfilling their obligation to ensure the safety of the children?
I think in terms of the vetting process with respect to being a foster parent, that's a question better posed to Child and Family Services. Certainly, there is an extensive process related to those authorities and permissions, but it's outside the purview of policing. So that would be something that I would inquire with Child and Family Services with respect to.
If there were going to be an investigation in that, it wouldn't be police, it would be a different agency.
An investigation into whom?
I guess to make sure that these agencies were taking the steps to ensure the safety of the children that will be.
Yeah, that certainly wouldn't be a police investigation. But in terms of process and procedure related to the authorities that they have under the Child and Family Services Act, that would be an internal process for sure. We're concerned about the victimization of children within the home, and there's evidence that has been gleaned so far from statements that have been obtained and evidence that has been gathered that speaks to that victimization. So that's first and foremost what our investigation pertains to. Go ahead.
What triggered the initial investigation, given there was it's been almost a year?
So the initial investigation was triggered by the National Child Exploitation Centre. So we were contacted by the National Child Exploitation Centre in Toronto with respect to what was believed to be active and ongoing child abuse, victimization of children within that residence. So that is how we became aware of what was transpiring. And there was an urgent and imminent risk to the children in that home from our perspective, and as a result of the information that was received and the risk that was posed to the children in care at that residence, we attended the residence as expeditiously as possible to investigate and conduct our investigation. So that's how we were informed. Yeah, it's way too early in the investigation to speculate on that. We know that there were 6 children in the residence when the warrant was executed to follow through with our investigation. That said, with the quantity of computer systems and electronic devices that are seized, you can imagine the extensive review and analysis that takes place with respect to information that could be contained on those devices, right? So there's an extensive review process, so much so that outside of the scope of Brandon Police Service, we have assistance from the TOBA Centre, of which we're integrated and a participant in. Additional resources have been provided, and that investigative team is continuing the review, not only of the required investigative steps and the statements that need to be obtained, but of those electronic devices that will require further analysis and exploration as far as potential charges and whatnot. So as I've indicated earlier, there is the potential that the children within the home are not the only ones victimized, and the information that is obtained from those electronic devices will speak to the gravity and scope of the abuse against the children within the home. But it is possible that there are potentially other victims as well that may have been victimized by the male that is currently charged here.
When you talk about the 6 children in the home, were they foster children or were they also part of the daycare?
It's a combination of the two. So there are foster children in the home, and there are also there is a small home daycare in the home as well. So both were present within the home. I'm not going to comment specifically on the number of kids in the daycare versus the proportion of kids that are in foster care. Suffice it to say it's a combination of the two. And we know that there were 6 children in the home at the time. So,
And for how long they were operating the childcare there?
pardon me?
For how long they were operating the childcare there?
I don't have a date with respect to when that home daycare opened. So I can't comment specifically on that. And I suspect that the Child and Family Services might have further information with respect to that, but I don't have any specific information on the daycare and when it was initiated.
Who would be in charge of telling parents who use that home daycare? Would it be BPS or CLS?
Who would be in charge of?
Who would tell parents being notified if they may be involved?
So certainly there's a notification process involved when there's an incident of this nature, because we can't have children at risk returning to a daycare after the execution of a search warrant for grave offenses of this nature. But that's a collaborative process that happens with Child and Family Services in terms of that outreach, because you can imagine the horror and the shock of the parents that learn of criminal instances of this magnitude at that residence, and how concerning that would be. So that's a collaborative effort between police and Child and Family Services and Victim Services in terms of that notification process. We do so in the most empathetic manner possible, but there's an urgent issue in play here where we need to make sure that there is no further victimization and no return to the residence, if you will. So, and that happens fairly imminently right after the execution of the search warrant. So it's an ongoing process that happens subsequent to that enforcement action.
And just to clarify, so the investigation was launched because the person was believed to be creating the content using the kids under their care.
Yes. So possession of child pornography, distribution of child pornography is more often what we deal with than manufacturing child pornography. In this particular case, it wasn't just the possession and the distribution, which are equally concerning, but also the manufacturing of child pornographic material at that residence. So, that's the reality, the sad reality of what was transpiring at this residence, and why there was such imminent and urgent need to affect the execution of that search warrant and safeguard those children from potential further abuse.
And I saw that computer systems were seized, anything like camera equipment?
Yeah, I can't comment specifically on all the items that were seized with respect to the execution of the search warrant, but certainly anything that would be evidentiary in nature and could potentially capture images would be the source of, would be one of the high value items that we would be looking to seize, right? And that includes a whole host of electronic devices that have been seized in this instance. So each and every one of those devices will have to go through extensive review to verify whether there are instances of further criminality that have been captured, instances, as I've indicated, of potentially other victims beyond the 6 that were in the residence. As you can appreciate, when you're a parent or a foster parent, there are kids that visit sometimes and friends that have play dates and all of those types of considerations, right? So, it's very early in the investigation, and that's why I won't put a number to the number of children victimized, only to say that there have been children both in foster care under the care of this couple, that have been victimized, as well as victims that were there by virtue of a home daycare situation arrangement.
And when the person was charged, I believe they were in the correctional center and were charged again once they were in the correctional center. Was that prompted by evidence that had been discovered?
Certainly. So this is a trend that you may continue to see, right? As we continue to investigate, as we obtain further statements, as we review further video and electronic devices, there could potentially and in all probability be further offenses that are revealed. And that's what's happened successively since the outset of this investigation. Because of the gravity and the seriousness and the victimization of these kids, you know, they needed to be rescued as soon as possible, right? And the warrant was affected, and the children were safeguarded, and since that time, there have been further instances of criminality that have been revealed through that analysis of evidence, and I suspect that will continue to be the case. You know, there's a good probability that as we continue this investigation, as we conduct the painstaking analytical reviews that need to take place, that there will be other instances of criminality identified and potentially other victims that come to light.
Is it believed if there's any other suspects or person of interest who could be involved in this case in Brandon or the province?
Yeah, I can't comment on that at this juncture. That would compromise the integrity of the investigation. You know, so I can say that you know, this investigation is active and ongoing and really fluid, if you will. So when you see successive instances where we're having to attend the correctional center to rearrest and lay additional charges, it speaks to the fluidity of this situation. And, you know, is there the possibility that that other victims come to light? Yes. Is there the possibility that there could potentially be other accused or suspects that have been involved in the victimization of these children? That's something that remains the subject of ongoing investigation.
Are there any further questions at this time?
Just to clarify one thing, so the additional charge when a person is in the jail, you mentioned statements, maybe additional statements since they were first arrested. Can you clarify, would those additional charges be brought forward because of reviewing digital evidence or just statements? Or both?
So when you're developing reasonable probable grounds with respect to offenses being committed, you look at all available forms of evidence, right? So I know that with the stage of this particular investigation, there are many statements yet to obtain. There are many interviews that remain. And there is, as I've indicated, a plethora of electronic devices that need to be analyzed for potential criminality and further instances. I would say that in terms of the assessment of laying of charges, you look at the totality of the information available to you. You don't look at a singular element. You look at the evidence from the statements that have been obtained. You look at whether or not there's corroboration by virtue of the electronic devices that have been seized and the material that's captured within those devices. So it's a comprehensive analysis that takes place that takes time and effort, and that's where you know, I appreciate the interest, but there might be many more updates as that investigative process continues and as we continue with that effort. Yeah, sure.
Is there an idea how many terabytes are people going to have to be going through? And will it just be a VPS, or will that be able to share with other agencies?
As far as the work, yeah. So, you know, I mean, this is a horrific investigation with just you know, tragic outcomes and consequences. You know, you know, my heart goes out to the families, to the parents that have had to deal with this horrific reality. You know, to the kids that are ever impacted by this victimization, right? And you know, I'm certainly proud of the work of Brandon Police Service members in their imminent rescue of these children and putting a stop to this ongoing behavior that has transpired. So, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't thank our partners in their efforts with us. So we're not alone in this. You know, the Toba Center is an integrated agency that provides resources to us from a variety of partner police agencies, right? And we're integrated with this with our own investigators, but the collective support of our partner police agencies is something that is really of value and important in moments like this, where a small police agency with a a finite number of major crime investigators are challenged with the complexity of the investigation and the volume of instances that they have to investigate. So we are not alone. We have partners involved with this, and the Toba Centre has been a valuable resource in terms of providing those additional investigators and coming alongside our Brandon members to provide the necessary supports.
Sorry, last question for me. Safeguarding the children, what's the future for these children? We're looking for new foster parents or something like that?
So our role in this is to investigate the criminality, to take the children out of harm's way, and therein lies the imminent response with respect to our patrol members and our major crime investigators to interdict and intercept the evidential material to effect arrests on those that are responsible at this juncture. It's up to Child and Family Services to take next steps with respect to the safeguarding of those children. So once those children are rescued, they're turned over to Child and Family Services, and the work that they undertake to make sure that they're provided necessary supports is outside the purview of policing. But suffice it to say, in terms of working in a collaborative, integrated way with the families impacted, parents and children alike, that's a joint effort, and we're very appreciative of Child and Family Services and the work that they do with us to make sure that that the next steps are the right steps as far as those families that have been impacted and the children that have been victimized. Okay, thank you for your time today. A really important story, and it's a really heavy day, I will say. And when you have investigators that have to deal with this kind of criminality and this kind of evil inflicted on our children, it's painstaking, it's heartbreaking work. And I'm so grateful for the Brandon Police Service members that stand in the gap and do this work day in, day out, because they've done a tremendous job, and they continue to do a tremendous job. And I don't think anybody realizes the toll and the impact of having to go through hundreds of hours of imagery to identify instances of criminality of such brutal, horrendous crimes. It's not something that is without impact, and I think all the citizens of Brandon can be grateful that there's people standing in the gap doing that work, because it makes a tremendous contribution to the well-being of our city and to the safe places and safe homes that we all in this room cherish and want to see as a reality within our city. So glad that there has been arrests and an interdiction in this matter that has put this particular incident to an end, and hopeful that that there's some healing that takes place for the impacted families and the kids that have been impacted.